Educational YouTubers have it rough. We're here trying to teach something, and as a result, it's harder to be engaging. We don't have some insane video topic like building a castle out of candy or giving away $1 million. We don't have crazy B-roll footage. We're just here to teach. But unfortunately, because we're on YouTube, we can't just teach. No one likes watching a plain, boring talking head prattle on and on for 15 minutes. And if a video isn't engaging or entertaining enough, even if the content by itself is immensely valuable, no one will watch your video all the way through, your video performance will suffer, and your channel won't grow. Like I said, educational YouTubers have it rough. But luckily for you, there are some simple editing tricks that you can use to go from boring lecture to YouTube-worthy video. I'm Aprilynne, and in this video, I'll teach you how to make boring educational videos better through editing. I'll walk you through 8 basic editing concepts you can use to make your videos more engaging and more YouTube worthy. We have a lot of material to cover, so let's get into it. Principle number 1. Color correction and color grading. Typically, no matter how good your camera settings are, it's difficult to achieve a YouTube-worthy shot using just raw footage. The colors will be dull and the white balance will be off. That's where color correction and color grading come in. We can edit our video footage to make sure that our video itself pops. Everyone has their own style when it comes to how you want to color your YouTube videos, but at the very least, do this. Increase your brightness, increase your contrast, increase your saturation, and white balance. White balancing is a color correction technique that involves taking something that should be pure white, such as your teeth or a wall behind you, and adjusting the color tones of your video so that it does indeed seem pure white, as opposed to yellow tinted. These slight color adjustments can make a massive difference in the quality of your video. This is what the video looks like without color grading, and this is what the video looks like with color grading. These are small tweaks with a large effect size. If you often film in the same location and under the same lighting, you can even save your color adjustments as a preset, making applying them to future videos as simple as just a few clicks. Principle number 2. Cuts. Cuts are one of the most basic principles of editing and also probably the most important. At its core, a cut involves removing or cutting out a portion of your video. It's how you get rid of all of the awkward ums, uhs, mistakes, silences, and bad takes. It's also how you control the pacing of your video. Pacing is probably one of the biggest problems that I usually see within educational YouTube channels. Because if you just record yourself teaching as if you were in a normal conversation, the pacing for a YouTube video usually just seems a bit off. I'll show you what I mean. Here, I'm talking as if I would in a normal conversation. I'm usually pausing in between sentences to take breaths. I might even pause and take a moment or two to think about my next sentence before I say it. And in a normal conversation, this can seem normal. But in a YouTube video, when people are used to content being delivered effectively, all of this can seem slow. How you pace your videos is completely up to you, but in general, a YouTube video is paced more quickly than just a normal conversation. How can you achieve this? Well, when you're recording your video, speak as if you naturally would. And then when you go to edit your A-roll or your main talking head footage, you cut out all of the silences and all of your breaths. So if you take a moment to think, cut that silence out. If you take a deep breath before or after a sentence, cut that out. Doing so will allow you to create a tight A-roll cut, which in and of itself is more interesting to watch than just raw footage. After you've done your cuts, you have what we like to call your rough cut. This is usually the cut down version of your A-roll and is also a general indication for how long your final video is going to be. This is usually when beginner educational YouTubers stop their editing process. They've cut out their mistakes and errors, and they may have even adjusted the coloring of their footage. It's definitely a good start, but it's typically not good enough. Because when people come onto YouTube, even if their primary intention is to learn something, they want to watch something. This isn't a podcast, so it's not just your audio that matters. You need to add some visual interest to give your viewers something to watch while you talk. Which brings us to principle number 3, zoom cuts. So you have your rough cut done. Great. To take your video to the next level, you can turn some of your regular cuts into zoom cuts. Here, I'm talking in the original frame of my shot, and here I'm slightly zoomed in. And now I'm back to the original frame. Zoom cuts help add visual interest by making the talking head footage itself more dynamic. To achieve this, look for a natural break or transition in what you're saying. Maybe you're moving from one point to another. I like to use transition words such as but as an indication for when a zoom cut would be appropriate. After you have your natural breaks and transitions, zoom in on your face or out on your face in the following clips. You don't have to be nearly as aggressive as this YouTube video when it comes to zoom cuts, but adding even a few can really add some movement to your YouTube video. After you have your zoom cuts, it's time for principle number 4, text. It's common to have text pop up to emphasize certain words or phrases. Text not only gives something for your viewers to focus on, but also helps reinforces key ideas as you bring them up. When it comes to bringing in text, the easiest way to do it is just have it pop in and pop out. That's effective enough. Later, if you want to get fancier, you can start playing with other transitions, such as a fade in and fade out, or a slide in and slide out. Simply adding text throughout your YouTube video can do a lot to help pump up the quality. To go one step further, we'll dive into principle number 5. Icons and images. In addition to text, you can also add icons and images as a way to visually illustrate something that you're talking about. Again, these elements are visually engaging while helping reinforce the main concepts that you bring up. For example, I can bring up icons around my head when I mention text, icons, images, and B-roll. I like to use flat icon for all the icons that I use in YouTube videos. And if you mention a specific person, brand, or thing, you could bring up images as you talk about them. For instance, I could bring up logos of Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro, or I can mention a specific book. Especially if you're a visual learner, these icons and images help you follow along with what I say throughout my video. Principle number 6, B-roll. B-roll is any supplementary footage that you have in which you're not talking directly to the camera. For instance, a screen recording for a tutorial can be B-roll, or you can take some stock footage from someplace like Pexels to be shown while you're talking about something. I know some YouTubers who have entire libraries full of B-roll footage that they've taken of themselves doing simple tasks such as scrolling through a phone or reading a book. B-roll can add additional context or visual interest, and it can help break up the monotony of long stretches of talking head footage and make your videos more engaging to your viewers. I'm personally not great with shooting my own B-roll and adding B-roll to videos, but something that I'm trying to get better at. But if you don't have your own B-roll, be a little bit careful with using too much stock footage in succession, as it can come across as tacky or like a commercial. B-roll is definitely optional unless you're doing something like a tutorial in which the B-roll is the primary value of your video. But if you do decide to include B-roll, it can be a great way to amp up the visual interest of your videos while adding an additional layer of filmmaking and perceived professionalism. When it comes to adding in your visual elements, that's your text, icons, images, and B-roll, the general rule of thumb is that you want to have something going on your screen at least every 15 seconds, preferably every 10 seconds of your video. This prevents too long of a boring stretch when it's just your talking head in front of a camera with nothing else. This 10 to 15 second range jumps to every 5 seconds when it comes to your hook. More things visually should be going on in your hook versus the rest of the video, because that's the portion of your video that most people will see and that matters most to the performance of your video. So focus first on your hook and then on the rest of your video. Once you've got your text, icons, images, and B-roll in place every 10 to 15 seconds of your video, as well as your color grading and your zoom cuts, your video is looking pretty good. It's already starting to look less like a boring lecture and more like a YouTube video. Now it's time to add in principle 7. Music and sound effects. Adding some soft music in the background of your YouTube video is an easy way to add polish. The general rule of thumb for music is that it should be soft enough so that people don't really realize that it's there, but loud enough so that if it cuts out for a second, people can tell that it's gone. Make sure that when you're selecting the background music for your video, you're choosing something that's copyright free. You don't want any accidental copyright strikes on your channel. My own go-to for copyright-free music is Epidemic Sound. They make it easy to find songs that you like the general vibe of. They are a bit pricey though, but they do have a free trial. I'll link it down in the video description below. You can also get sound effects from Epidemic Sound. Sound effects can be tricky because too many of them can make your video tacky, but subtle ones can do a lot to add more depth to your videos. I like to have a little pop sound sometimes if an icon or image is popping onto a screen, like a whoosh sound if something is sliding in and out of the screen. Small details like that add a lot of polish to your videos. So now you have your color grading, zoom cuts, B-roll, text, images, icons, music, and sound effects. This is enough for a basic, above average YouTube video. Putting it all together might take you forever, but the more that you do it, the better that you'll get. Everything I've already mentioned is enough to make your educational talking head videos more interesting, but if you do want to elevate the quality of your videos even further, there's one more thing that you can add. Principle 8. Animations. Animations come in a few flavors. The more common ones include titles, lower thirds, and transitions. Titles are text or graphics that appear at the beginning or throughout your video to provide additional information such as the title of your video, your section names, and other relevant information. A lower third is similar to a title, but it appears at the bottom third of your screen. While titles tend to provide information about the video as a whole, lower thirds tend to provide information about what's currently on screen. And a transition is an effect or animation that occurs between two shots or clips of your video. Animations animations like these add another layer of professionalism and polish, catapulting your videos into YouTube-worthy status. And the best part is that although they do seem wildly complicated, you don't have to make them all yourself. Instead, you can go someplace like Storyblocks and download an animations pack. From there, all you need to do is customize your text and your colors, and then you're good to go to add them to your own videos. I know I just threw a lot of editing concepts at you. There's color grading, cuts and zoom cuts, text, icons, images, B-roll, music, sound effects, and animations. If you're newer to YouTube and don't have much editing experience, it can be a nightmare to try to learn and implement all of these things at the same time. The first time I did it, it took me 26 hours to edit a 14-minute long YouTube video. This stuff is no joke. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. If I had to learn everything all over again, this is what I would do. Dedicate 1 week to teach yourself the main editing concepts. On Monday, film a sample video of you talking for 5 minutes. This sample video isn't going to go anywhere. It doesn't have to be fancy, it's just for testing. Then create a new project file, upload your sample video footage, and play with the color grading and color correction. White balance it and increase your brightness, saturation, and contrast. And that's it. That's Monday. On Tuesday, go through your 5-minute long video and make cuts. Experiment with cutting out silences and breaths between sentences and seeing what the effect of that is on the pacing of your video. Turn some of your cuts into zoom cuts, playing with the degree of zooming in and zooming out. That's Tuesday. Just make some cuts and some zoom cuts. On Wednesday, try adding text. That's it. Just experiment adding text to your video, having it pop in and out of existence. If you're feeling a little adventurous, try different transitions such as fading in and fading out, or sliding in and sliding out. On Thursday, see if you can do the same with icons and images. Just play around and have them pop in and pop out, or fade in and fade out, or slide in and slide out. On Friday, start a free trial from Epidemic Sound and just poke around their platform. See what kind of music they have and what kind of music you like. Try adding some light background music to your video. Experiment with the music style and volume. Try adding some sound effects too, just to see how they work. On Saturday, screen record something and add that screen recording to your video. Try to overlay the screen recording footage while still maintaining the audio of you talking. Then go to Pixels and download some stock footage and try adding that to your video. This is using B-roll. And on Sunday, if you're feeling ambitious, download a titles, lower thirds, or transitions pack just to see what you can do. Just play around with it, customize it, and add it to your own project file. And there you have it. You familiarize yourself with the basics of YouTube editing. Not too shabby for 1 week. I would recommend taking the time to learn the basics of editing yourself, even if you're planning on hiring an editor. I've used an editor for about a year now, and it's been an absolute game changer for me. Editing is by far the most time-consuming process of making YouTube videos, and the sooner that you can hand it off to someone else, the better. But knowing the basics of video editing yourself makes it a lot easier for you to communicate with your editor. It'll help clarify exactly what you want and how you want it. It's also great to be able to make any final tweaks yourself as well. So it's definitely worth taking the time to teach yourself. So there you have it. Color grading, cuts, zoom cuts, text, icons and images, music and sound effects, B-roll and animations. These 8 simple editing concepts are what skyrocketed my first YouTube channel to over 22,000 subscribers in just a few months. If you're curious about why I'm starting over from scratch with this brand new channel, check out this video. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you can, and I will see you in the next video.